Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates.
This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates coming to you live from the crossroads of the West in Lake City, Utah. The time right now is 7:05 p.m.
It's very clear on the backside of the sun, and then the earth is located in the sun, hitting the earth is located around 3.5 miles southeast of the earth now. The solar wind is also
Good afternoon, good morning to whoever's here. All you ladies and gentlemen out there, welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We want to welcome everybody here who is joining us on this program tonight. As we have been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off this program with a salute to the United States of America, and we're also going to end on the same note. Please, everyone, please rise and salute the flag. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you, coming live, or not live, but from 2015 at the Barbershop Quartet Convention, the United States Army Barbershop Quartet. I want to introduce them to you now. Thank you for being here with us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air,
there, guys. The United States Army Barbershop Quartet at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. The host of the Barbershop Quartet Convention gave us the national anthem. We appreciate these men who have given us the national anthem here for going on 2 years. We appreciate that very much. We honor our men and women in the armed forces, and it doesn't matter whether you are in the Army, the Marine Corps, the Navy, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, or Space Force. We love you, we honor you, and thank you for your service. And that goes for our allied military as well, our allies around the world who support us, the United States of America, in doing our mission in policing the world. God bless you. May you all return home to your families after your tours of duty end. And thank you for your service. Folks, I have a lot of things to discuss with you tonight. One of the first things I'm going to discuss is the Semeru volcano. I want to play this short clip for you, and it's not very long. I'll tell you, it's not long at all. This is 14 seconds. This is the lahar that had come down the slopes of the Semeru volcano in Indonesia. That's lava and water. That's lava and debris that came down the mountain. Lava and water. Yes, they've had some heavy rains. Yes, the rivers are swollen all throughout Indonesia. But folks, this is what happens when you have a huge blow, a huge eruption from a volcano. It's incredible. There are other videos out there on the internet that I was not able to gain permission to show. This is one of them. Okay? This is one that I was able to bring you tonight. That's one. There are many others, and you can check it out. Now, sorry about that. One of the other things I want to talk to you about is those lahars. The Semeru volcano in East Java, we've shown you pictures of it before. It erupted. Strong lahars have destroyed several bridges, and evacuations have been ordered in the threatened villages. Ongoing heavy rain in East Java region caused several lahars from Semeru. Mud flows have been triggered by remobilization of ash and dome block deposits. Dome block deposits. Dome blocks are solidified lava. Dome blocks are solidified lava that are pushed up by the superheated magma in the area, resulting in dangerous clay-sized particles mixed with water-saturated debris flows, which affected a broad eastern and southeastern area around the volcano. People from threatened villages have been ordered to evacuate their homes and leave their homes behind. Powerful lahars caused a local bridge connecting Kandipuro and Pasarujami districts in Kloposwat village completely destroyed. And unfortunately, I can't even get a picture of it. But there are Twitter posts showing the lahar flows and showing the bridge being totally destroyed. It's huge. It's huge. One of the biggest eruptions at Semeru caused that to happen. We've talked about lahars before. People have asked questions. That's why I wanted to show you this. I think it's very fitting that we understand what happens, because we are looking at possibly Rainier and, what is it? Mount St. Helens, and also possibly even Mount Hood erupting. There's a lot of earthquakes around all three of those volcanoes, and also sisters volcanoes to the south of that. A lot of earthquakes. And there may be a possible eruption again at Mount Lassen. It hasn't quite been 200 years, or excuse me, not 200, but 100 years since the last eruption at Lassen. We have a feeling that there's going to be an eruption at Lassen as well. Lahars are just one part of it, with lava flows going down the entire portion of the volcano, north, south, east, and west. That can happen. That's what's happening over at Popocatépetl tonight. That's what is happening over at 3 different volcanoes down in Guatemala. We've seen this happen literally all over the world, guys. You deserve to see that. That is the kind of destruction that we can see going down Mount Rainier and out away from there towards Seattle and various other places east of there. Everybody needs to prepare. I'm not trying to scare anybody. I want to show you these videos and these clips because you need to know this is going to happen and you need to prepare for it. That's why this program is on the air. We want to give you the information you need to know for your families and your own safety. That's why we do this. Okay? It's the only reason why we do this. There's no other reason at all. Now there's something else that's been happening that I want to bring to your attention if by chance you don't already know about it. That is the earthquakes that are happening over at Iceland. The earthquakes that are happening over at Iceland. This is what's going on, guys. Okay? 200 earthquakes over there in southwestern Iceland. 200 plus earthquakes hitting the island of Iceland. Okay? That's what's actually going on. Folks, that volcano is probably going to erupt at any time. Scientists are even saying imminently, meaning any minute. We've had 2.3s, we've had 3.7s, we've had 4.5s, we've even had a couple of 5.0s hitting the peninsula there, the Reykjavik Peninsula, and where that volcano is. Magma is reaching up in a dike inside that volcano. Magma is going up inside that volcano and it is just about ready to pop. Those people that are watching this program need to be aware of it. You may have to evacuate certain areas around that volcano. Any sightseers, do not go near that volcano. Your politicians, your leaders over there probably have already been warned about this. Don't go near there. It's not worth your health and safety by going near there. Besides coming in contact with superheated lava, red hot burning lava, you also will be subject to toxic gases, carbon dioxide and sulfur dioxide, that can kill you in a heartbeat. Don't do it. Don't do it. Now, I want to play another clip for you. This has nothing to do with earthquakes. This has everything to do with where we are in our world today. This happens to the United States of America. This happens to be our White House, the people's house here in the United States. I am frankly not just disappointed, but I am outraged at what has happened at our White House since Wednesday. Okay? Actually, since Monday. I want to play this clip for you because it is very much related to what is happening literally all over this world. Okay? I'm not going to pull any punches here. I've said that phrase many times before. I don't want to pull any punches. Okay? This is meaningful. Each of us will be affected by what has happened over here at the White House this week. Okay?
One way to avoid expensive car
Sorry
repair
about
bills
that, guys.
is to be a race car driver.
Just a second. Let me see if I can get around this. Hold on a second.
The other is endurance.
Joining us now to discuss is former Secret Service agent Melanie Burkholder and former FBI agent Jonathan Gilliam. Great to have you both with us here. Melanie, as a former Secret Service agent, the new location now where we're finding out that this cocaine was found, specifically the West Executive entrance. How different is that location versus where we first heard it was discovered? And also, is that a location where it is, I would assume, easier to get into the White House?
Well, first of all, Christina and John, thanks for having me on. It's great to be here. I think the location of the drug is almost irrelevant. I believe this administration is sadly somewhat desensitized to the idea that there can be cocaine in America's home and that it's not a big deal. They already are laying shade about where it was found and who has access to the entrances and what the implications are to those accesses. Well, if they have fingerprints, it's a very simple process, right? And they, I believe, already know the perpetrator in this crime. And I also think it looks a lot like a drug deal gone bad.
Very good point. Jonathan, how does this change maybe the investigation? The public clearly interested in this story, wants to know whose was it. Do you think we'll ever find out? And now that we know a different location, does it change anything in terms of the investigation?
Well, I don't know. This is also political, and Melanie can tell you, when you're an investigator and you're looking at these things, you follow certain steps in order to determine who, when, and how they got this substance into the White House. It's not like we're talking about a major event at the Super Bowl or some type of event like that where 70,000 people are coming in. We're talking about a small group of people that have had access at that period of time in a confined space that is probably the most guarded location in the United States. So if the Secret Service is not capable of finding out who carried any of that stuff into the White House, then we need to start asking real questions about who's running the Secret Service, what their investigative capabilities and protective capabilities actually are, because this is a complete failure as far as protecting not just the president, but as Melanie said, America's house. And I'll tell you, one thing that all people have to do is look at this from an investigative standpoint and ask the question, why can't the Secret Service tell us or find out what is in there? If this had been Trump in office, I can guarantee you half of Congress would be going crazy right now, and all of the networks would be going crazy. So it's not really the fact that they can't find it. It's that they are either politically not being allowed to, or somebody within the Secret Service that runs things is in political bed with the Bidens.
Yeah, Melanie, you pointed out. Sorry, Melanie, you did point out that it's more of a problem, of course, that the cocaine was found in the White House. But you also said that the Secret Service probably already knows who it belonged to or how it got there, again, questioning the transparency or lack thereof of this administration. But even furthermore, it seems like Karine Jean-Pierre, of course, White House press secretary, even this NBC reporting with the update on the location, seems to be going out of their way to emphasize this is still a heavily trafficked area. At a certain point, it seems like they're trying to do some sort of a bait and switch.
Right, that's the shade I was talking about earlier. And it is true, to Jonathan's point, Secret Service should be looking at this with an investigator's eye and following the who, what, when, and where, and why. And that's just my whole thing. Who has the audacity to bring a Class 2 substance into the people's house, right, and plant it somewhere? I'm telling you, it looks like a drug drop that just went bad. And how many times has this happened before? I know that this is shocking, but Karine Jean-Pierre didn't come out and say, yes, the president wants to follow this to its fullest extent and prosecute the perpetrator. That, to me, would have been an indefiable statement that she could have made from the podium that would have put people at ease. We're talking about a drug, but what perhaps if it had been something more serious, something that's not detectable by magnetometers? That's the potential harm that we have, not only to the White House, but to the administration and the Secret Service agents that are there guarding it.
You make a very good point. What if it was something else? What if it was anthrax? Or if it was that easy to get into the White House? Jonathan, is there a breakdown in the security clearances there?
Well, that's an excellent point there, because let's say this was a small amount of anthrax. That's enough anthrax to kill several people in that area within that confined space. So the Secret Service is in essence telling us that if it was anthrax or any other type of volatile type of powdered substance, they're not going to be able to find out who brought it in. That's what they're telling us. And that is a scary, scary thought. As far as the subject of the press secretary, this girl has a tail like the worst poker player in the world. When she starts blinking her eyes quickly.
Okay, listen to this, folks. This is a press secretary of Biden's that they're talking about. Listen to this very carefully, and I will explain more in just a minute.
She is either lying or she is trying to develop some type of a story to cover something up. And that's an honest investigative insight, because when I watch her and she's just talking about something in general, there's no blinking. It's as soon as she starts trying to tiptoe around something or lie, she starts blinking 90 miles an hour.
Yeah, and Jonathan, we and Melanie, we have to go just in a second, but Jonathan, quickly. So do you think there is something being covered up, or maybe they're trying to cover up the person who they know brought it in? Just curious.
I think Melanie and I both know that. We both know how investigations work. We both know how protection works. If they don't know, if they're telling us that they don't know who brought this in, they're lying.
If they don't know, if they're telling us that they don't know who brought this in, they are lying. They know darn well who brought this substance in to the White House. They know. And they probably are going to cover it up. Now let me take this a little bit further. Don Patoka in the chat just asked, do they run background checks on family members? The answer is yes. And I will explain that more also in a few minutes. Like that investigator, this guy is an FBI agent now that just got through talking to us. That guy is now an FBI agent. Both of them used to work for the Secret Service. They used to work for the Secret Service Presidential Protection Detail. They're very familiar with what's going on and what's happened in previous White House, previous presidencies that occupied the White House. Okay, I'm sorry. Seems like every time I turn around, AI captures me and doesn't put the audio on the air. I'm going to repeat myself. Those two people that just got through speaking to you from Newsmax Television, both of those are former Secret Service agents. Both of them are former Secret Service agents. The man now works for the FBI. I told you that I was going to tell you what happens when one of these very qualified agents interviews someone. And in this case, that man there who now works for the FBI, former Secret Service agent, Both of them used to work the White House protection detail. They're very smart. They know exactly what happens in the White House. It doesn't matter which president is in there. Don Patoka just also asked, do family members get background check? Yes, they absolutely do. They do. As I mentioned last night, Biden in a news brief with his reporters was asked, what about your son? And he said, hey man, don't worry about my kids. I love my kids. I respect my kids. Leave them alone. Biden surely knows what is going on. Just like Bill Clinton knew what was going on. Bill Clinton invited people into the White House that had no business being there. Okay? We need a president right now that will clean this up. We need a population here in the United States of citizens that are not going to allow this to happen again. Never again. Okay? As we talked about last night, we need to take responsibility for ourselves. We need to take responsibility for our country. And if we're not willing to do that, get out of the way and let someone else take your place. Because that is exactly what is going on. Okay? We are not going to lose our country. We are not going to lose because Jesus Christ himself and our Heavenly Father designated this country for a country of safety. For a country that would accept the gospel of Jesus Christ. We are a Christ-centered country, regardless of what the left-wing communists say. And that's exactly what they are. I have said this and I will say it again. The left-wing Democrat Party is the Communist Party of the United States of America. And they have to be eradicated, gotten rid of, jailed for the rest of their born lives. And some of them need to be arrested for treason, high crimes and misdemeanors, and taken before a court, and if found guilty, they need to be dealt out punishment, which is hanging. And I will say that every day till I die, because that's exactly what needs to happen. Why? And yes, I know I'll get criticism for saying that. Why do I say that? Because if we do that, if we exercise the law to its fullest extent and prosecute those people that denigrate us, that destroy our country's values, if we take the absolute step of eradicating the problem, just as I talked about, no one else will ever do it again. That must happen. That must happen. Don Patoka with James Brockett says, like FDR did. Yes. Okay? That's the issue here. James Brockett says the problem is a 4-year term for the most powerful office in the world is way too short. That's a problem. Not enough time to fix the problem. Yes, there could be time to fix it, but they're too busy running for re-election. From the day they get in, they have to cover their backs to stay in office. President Trump never covered his back, but the Democrat Communist Party continued going after him. They went after him before he even got elected. Before he even stepped down the escalator at Trump Tower in New York and said that he was going to run for president, the Democrat communists went after him. They falsely put up information saying that he and Russia conspired against the United States. And that, frankly, was false. It was proven that Hillary Clinton paid a spy to come up with a Steele dossier. The Steele dossier was nothing but lies. Hillary Clinton has not been prosecuted for that. Hillary Clinton paid for it. She went after a sitting president. She ought to be hung for her actions. All the data that was on her computer, on her cell phone, was compromised because it was not done correctly. Her cell phone was not programmed correctly, and her computer was not a safe computer. It was not guarded by protocol within the U.S. government. And then she had a separate system in place in Colorado where her server was that tried to put out the data. James Barreca just gave us a $5 super chat. Thank you so much, James. We appreciate that. God bless you for that. He says, thank you for all you do. Well, thank you. I work for all of you. I work for all of you, and I will continue to the day I die to give you the information that you need to protect yourselves, and I've told you that. I will continue to do my job to the best of my ability. So help me God. Jamma Gill in Minnesota just gave us a $20 super chat. Thank you so much, Jamma. I appreciate that. God bless you for that. We appreciate all of your contributions, guys. It means the world to me and what we're doing here. It takes a lot to put this program on the air. When I first started 4.5 years ago, I had no clue. But over the last almost 4.5 years, I've learned that it takes money to run a program like this. And I appreciate all those that support us. Now, James Comer, who is a congressman, he's the chairman of the House Insight Committee in charge of investigations of wrongful doing by the White House. James Comer just sent a subpoena letter to the lady who is the head of the FBI, demanding the head of the, or not the head of the FBI, she's the head of the Secret Service. He sent her a letter demanding answers. And it's going to appear as a subpoena to appear before a Congressional Investigation Committee. And she's going to have to answer for this. Now, what those two former Secret Service agents, now FBI, have said is absolutely true. There is a huge magnetometer. It's a huge piece of aluminum and steel that stands around every entrance to the White House. Every time a president or a presidential candidate goes out into the public, anybody that goes into those areas must walk through a magnetometer to make sure they're not carrying anything that could be lethal to the public or lethal to the president or the contender for the presidency of the United States. I've been there. I've done that. I've walked through many magnetometers. I shook President Reagan's hand back in 1984. I know what I'm talking about. Now, in the early 90s, I happened to run into a man named Gary Aldrich. Gary Aldrich is a former FBI agent. Gary Aldrich, Cramelot just gave us a $10 super chat. Thank you very much. God bless you for that. You guys mean a lot to me. This helps us stay on the air. This helps us do our job here. Thank you so much. Gary Aldrich, let me show you this book he wrote. I got this later. He signed it for me. Just a second. He signed this for me after he wrote it. Okay? And I ran into him before that. This is called Unlimited Access. Gary Aldrich was an FBI agent who, together with a partner of his, and I'll mention his partner's name in a few minutes, but they were assigned to vet everyone that came into the White House during the Clinton administration. It needs to be mentioned that Mr. Reagan came in before that. And when he left, everybody expected things to go the same way. Everybody expected to see things copacetic. But the Clintons and their followers were anything but that. They were drugs in there. There were people that were against the country. There were people that were fighting against the country, that backed Mr. Clinton in doing things he should not have been doing. And Gary and his partner did their best to stop a great deal of it. Now, I'm going to read you some passages from Unlimited Access. Please bear with me, but this is important. This is why we're here today. This is a statement from Gary himself. Printed on my FBI credentials, now punched through with the word retired, and mounted on a plaque hanging on my library wall, are the following words. Gary Aldrich is a regularly appointed special agent of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, United States Department of Justice, and as such is charged with the duty of investigating the violations of laws of the United States, collecting evidence in cases in which the United States is or may be party in interest, and performing other duties imposed upon him by law. Duties imposed upon him by law. Special agents of the FBI are trained to find truth, document truth, and present it to a judge and to a jury, or even to the counsel of the President of the United States. In the many assignments I was privileged to have over the course of a 26-year career with the FBI, I would often come across special kinds of truth. Everyone has experienced moments of great clarity when we see or hear evidence. We see or hear evidence that is irrefutable. Judges have a name for it. They call it prima facie. Prima facie evidence. Facts that are indisputable and require no explanation. Water is wet. Fire burns. Con men con. When I was a young agent in Los Angeles, my prosecutor partner was an assistant U.S. attorney fresh from Stanford University, the law school. We had a bribery case to take to trial. We needed to prove that a Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, an inspector took bribes from contractors so they could pocket money earmarked for home repairs that they never made. Repairs paid for by taxpayer dollars. Our evidence, frankly, was weak, but the crimes were especially heinous because when the repaired roof leaked like a sieve, or when the electrical conduit shorted out, or the furnace did not work, the poor couldn't afford to make the repairs. When they walked away from their defective homes because they had been defrauded and could not repair those homes, they walked away from their small chance to have their American dream. Their credit could be destroyed by mortgage foreclosure and eventually bankruptcy. Their neighborhoods full of similarly defrauded people would disintegrate. And disintegrating neighborhoods were breeding grounds for serious crime. It was a hard case to prove because the bribes were paid in cash. And the HUD inspector, I'll call him Raymond, never put the money in the bank. Of course, Raymond denied the bribes and blamed the contractors for not doing the work. He claimed that if there was a fraud, it was the contractor's fault because the contractors encouraged him to sign forms without seeing the completed construction. If he was guilty of anything, it was being too nice or regrettably lazy. You could fire a lazy inspector, but you couldn't put him in jail. The inspector was very slick in his defense. In the end, only one contractor had the guts to testify for the government, and he was on the witness stand. He had some serious problems in his past, including alcoholism and divorce. The assistant U.S. attorney and I were worried. The defense attorney's withering attack on our witness's character meant we might lose. Our witness was now on trial, and he was unraveling. But the defense attorney, not knowing when to quit, asked, "Mr. Smith, you didn't pay any bribes." Notice how he said that. "Mr. Smith, you didn't pay any bribes, did you? You're making all this up, aren't you? To save your own skin. You don't seem to remember much of anything, do you? You were drunk all of the time. Your wife threw you out of the house. In short, you were a mess, weren't you?" "Well, actually, now that you ask, there is this one thing," Smith began. The defense attorney, sensing danger, tried to cut him off. "Never mind, Mr. Smith. I think the jury has heard enough of your lies. We all know what your answer is going to be. No further questions, Your Honor." The prosecutor stood up. He had a hunch our witness had something important to say. "Wait a minute, Your Honor. I think we are entitled to hear Mr. Smith's answers, don't you think?" The judge concurred. "Go ahead, Mr. Smith. You can finish your answer." Smith looked alarmed. "Judge, If I tell you I gotta use some, well, bad language, and I don't feel right about it. He looked over at the jury. The judge smiled at Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, I'm sure that this Los Angeles jury has probably already heard whatever words you might want to use. All eyes were turned on the jury, and they nodded. Well, Your Honor, there was this one thing. Raymond always made us come to his office to pay the bribes. Okay? Now he's convicting himself. Mr. Raymond always had us come to his office to pay the bribes. He insisted it had to be in his office because it was safe there. Behind his desk where he sat, we paid him. Beside his desk was this big mounted Moosehead. Well, when Raymond looked into the envelope to count the $100 bills, he would always laugh. He'd point up at the Moosehead behind his desk and say, if that effing Moosehead could talk, we'd all go to jail. There it was, the Moosehead of Truth, the MHT. Remember the MHT, guys, the Moosehead of Truth. The guilty look on Raymond's face said the rest. It was all over. Crumlots gave us another $5 super chat. Thank you so much. God bless you for that. Betty Zoom, hello from Niagara Falls. Thank you for being here. The jury came back inside of 30 minutes with a guilty verdict on all counts. Gary Aldrich goes on. I've always wondered and remembered about that trial and the discovery of the MHT. The MHT truth, the Moosehead truth. I've always remembered that trial and discovery of the Moosehead truth in every case I handled thereafter. I searched for the Moosehead truth in 20 years of criminal investigations in very complex and confusing trials, some lasting months. I achieved scores of convictions and suffered only one acquittal. Remember, he suffered one acquittal. It was a good career, a winning career. Thanks in large part to Raymond's stuffed Moosehead, it was a good career. In this book, I hope to help the reader find the Moosehead truth about the Clintons, their friends, and their political agenda. An agenda that I conclude is at odds with the Constitution that I have been sworn to uphold. This is all part of what's going on now. That's why I'm sharing this with you. The Moosehead truth about the Clintons. This is all at odds with the Constitution of the United States. Gary goes on. Still, I know there will be some readers who will say this book shouldn't come from me, in my position, that I should keep quiet. Some will say that I should trust the system and rely on Congress to blow the whistle on the White House. What's going on now? Congress is trying to blow the whistle on the White House. It's not quite working that way. But I believe Congress knows even more about what went on at the White House than I did. Our Congress knows exactly what's going on at the White House right now. Yet with the exception of the efforts of a few individual congressmen, Congress actions have been timid. Does this sound about right what's going on now? Up until now, congressmen's actions have been timid, afraid to rock the boat. Some readers, Gary goes on and says, some readers say I should have left the job of informing the public to the media, to investigative journalists, but in good conscience I couldn't do that because no one in the media was reporting the administration that I saw every day. Does this sound familiar? With our media not reporting the truth, covering up the truth, and deciding, oh, the public really doesn't need to know this. Gary said that it was an administration where many little things like the evidence police officers drop into small plastic bags during investigations of a crime scene add up to something very big. And that's what we're seeing in the White House today. Little pieces of evidence having been dropped into bags, and that's the last that we see of it. Hunter Biden got slapped on the wrist for major crimes, that if you and I did it, we'd be in prison right now. We would be in prison right now. And he just got let off. Now this happens. One more crime that fits the same narrative. As a trained investigator, an FBI special agent for a quarter of a century, I needed first, and notice first, the character profiling things about the new Clinton administration. Clothes, the demeanor. This closely profiles exactly what's happening now with the Biden administration. Look at their clothes, their demeanor, the sort of language that people use. And these were troubling indicators. But I quickly discovered more serious problems. These included an apparent total disregard for honesty, integrity, or even cooperating with me, with the FBI, so that I could do my job by proving the good character of new employees. It wasn't long before I found evidence not only of real criminal activity, but of the willful endangerment of the president, the White House staff, and national security. I entered the White House thinking if I landed a nice white-collar job, and it was at first, I never had any intention of writing a book about my time in the White House. And even now I feel somewhat uncomfortable about writing about it. I'm sure high-ranking people I respect from the Bush administration would have liked to talk me out of it, given all the hard work and frankly the pain and distress that this book has caused me and my family. Remember that. Because frankly, that's happened to me, as I tried to portray what happened to me during my time as a federal police officer. Okay? The FBI certainly did its best to talk me out of it. I tried in good faith to have this book cleared by the FBI. But the Bureau's unreasonable restrictions on the public's right to know made that impossible. So I say here at the outset that this book is going to press without the Bureau's written permission. Gary Aldrich did not have the FBI's permission to go to press with this book. I obviously deeply admired the many fine people I knew in the Bush administration, but I was basically apolitical. I was an FBI agent, not a campaign worker. When Bill Clinton was elected, I wanted to believe that he'd make a fine president. I obviously deeply admired the many fine people I knew in the Bush administration, but I was basically apolitical. I was an FBI agent. But because what I was seeing at the White House each and every day was not evidence of what I had hoped for. There was no evidence of Georgetown, Oxford, Yale-educated brilliance, or even this would-be folksy, moderate Southern Democrat administration. I left the Clinton White House thinking that I'd spent more time than 2 years back on the streets, fighting a new mafia. This one from Arkansas. And I thought the American people had a right to know about it. Gary Aldrich returned to the White House on Monday, January 25th. Now, there is a book, and it's been mentioned many times by Glenn Beck. It's been mentioned many times by Dan Bongino. It's been mentioned many times by other people. It's called Rules for Radicals. The 9th rule of ethics of means and ends is that any effective means is automatically judged by the opposition as being unethical. Unethical. Does that sound familiar? The communist Democrats today are saying that the ethics of good people are unethical. George Washington's rule of civility and decent behavior was associate yourself with men of good quality, if you esteem your own reputation, for it is better to be alone than in bad company. Like I said, Gary Aldrich returned to the White House on January 25th. He said, I did not attend the inauguration on the 20th because I wasn't required to do so. I knew it would be a traffic nightmare. I wasn't required. The inauguration was on a Wednesday. I watched it on TV and took a few days off to get ready for an enormous workload that I knew was ahead. A new president and all of his staff had to be investigated. Driving in on Interstate 66, I was thinking of the changes I might see at the White House. Different faces, new friends, a whole new administration to get to know. For more than 3 decades, the FBI, the Secret Service, and the President's councils had worked as a team to clear the hundreds of new staff members who would come with the new president. The FBI, the Secret Service, and the President's Council would work together to clear all of those new members of the presidential staff. It is a comprehensive and effective security system that has been perfected for 6 different presidents to protect national security, to protect the president, the taxpayer, and even the White House itself. The clearance process, okay, get this. This is one of the most important parts of this. That's why I'm giving it to you. The clearance process is accomplished through a lengthy FBI background investigation. To document the good character of each and every White House staff member, from the chief of staff right down to the most obscure messenger located far from the Oval Office. A lengthy FBI investigation. In addition, the FBI clears all of the cabinet secretary positions working with U.S. Senate in the confirmation process. As part of the permanent two-man FBI post in the White House, I was a key player in what they called the SPIN unit, or Special Inquiry Unit, the team responsible for investigating the backgrounds of executive branch employees and federal judges. My partner in the post was Special Agent Dennis Scullenbreen. He and I were particularly responsible for anyone who had worked in the White House, in the White House complex. That meant for anyone who might harm or embarrass the president or compromise the White House, the grounds, the buildings, the office space, and to its several thousand permanent and political employees. Every one of the staff in the White House office would be new, which meant hundreds of background investigations. There was also the Executive Office of the President, a collection of semi-permanent agencies within the White House, including the Office of Management and Budget, the OMB, and the Security Council, the National Security Council, the NSC. And though most of my civil servants in the permanent White House staff would remain in place, they too had to be re-cleared every 5 years. Now, my background clearances had to be cleared every 3 years. Every 3 years. Why in the world would be one of the most important places to background check people every 3 years would be the White House? I was a federal agent. I was a police officer, a federal agent, and I had to be cleared every 3 years. So why wouldn't someone working in the White House have to also be cleared? But they were cleared every 5 years. Okay? That's for starters. The clearance process is accomplished through a lengthy FBI investigation. Everybody. He said, I spent more than 2 years in the Bush White House. Each month, my partner and I were responsible for up to 50 investigations apiece. Each investigation was thorough, requiring at least 7 interviews at the White House, 2 record checks, and a letter perfect 10-page report for the White House Counsel. My letter perfect background package was 14 pages. No spelling errors, no punctuation errors. It had to be letter perfect. Letter perfect. We could never anticipate how long an investigation would last. Many of these people were meeting an FBI agent for the first time. And in 1985, that was me. Meeting an FBI agent for the first time for an interview. Now, I knew FBI agents in my life. My father's clergyman, who is not a paid clergyman, who served his church in a voluntary position, as a bishop of his church. That man was also an FBI agent. And his superior within the church, in the ecclesiastical image of the church, as a stake president, was also head of the FBI San Diego Bureau. Okay? So yes, I knew FBI agents. I was very familiar with them before my investigation started. Okay? We could never anticipate how long a background investigation would last. Many of these people were talking to an FBI agent for the first time in their lives. Many were being asked questions that nobody had ever asked them before. I can testify that's true as well. People going through an FBI investigation might be very afraid. I was. But I knew I didn't have anything to be afraid about. The only thing I had to be afraid about at that time was an ex-wife, who I thought was going to hurt my investigation. But she didn't hurt it, it actually helped. People going through an investigation might be very afraid, and many had good reason to fear us. That's because many a hopeful staffer had made it all the way to the FBI interview, only to be discovered as a liar. Many of the staffers in the White House, many police officers or wannabe police officers working for the government were found to be liars, and they were not allowed to serve. Some lies or some behavior openly confessed justified barring a staffer from the White House. Some lies or some behavior openly confessed justified barring a staffer from the White House. The same thing was true with the position that I filled. An FBI background investigation is more extensive than any other, save perhaps one conducted by the CIA. For lower level employees, we investigate the past 15 years of their lives. That's what I thought with mine. For more senior employees, we investigate their entire adult lives. My background investigation went back to my elementary school days. The FBI interviewed my grade school teachers that were still alive. I got telephone calls from them because they telephoned my parents. They telephoned my family, different members of my family, and then I would get telephone calls from them saying, "Why is the FBI investigating you?" And then I had to tell them that I put in for a position as a federal police officer. My 14-page background investigation package went back to when I was a kid, and they went all the way back, and they did that every 3 years. Okay? They investigated my entire life. And here, Gary's talking about including all former employers, any employment people, representatives, interview representatives, professors, teachers, and they investigate other material related to education. They vetted me. Gary says we also investigate any accusation or record of criminal wrongdoing and interview neighbors, friends, and associates of a potential employee. That they did. When they went back to my first wife, they asked her all kinds of questions about her, about me, and our life together. It spanned about 11 years. But the problem was, she lied. My first wife lied. And when I asked about it, oh, don't worry about her. That's exactly what the FBI agent said. Oh, don't worry about her. She wouldn't know the truth if it bit her in the face. That's a direct quote. She lied to the FBI. We also review college transcripts. Professors investigate material related to education. We investigate any accusation or record of criminal wrongdoing. Interview neighbors, friends, and associates of potential employees. There were very few limits, though some have been lately, and wrongly been imposed on what we could do or we were even obligated to investigate. When Clinton came in, the rules changed because the people who came in to work for the Clintons had stuff in their backgrounds. And all of a sudden, Gary Aldrich and his partner were getting their hands slapped and told to go ahead and let them in. If we found character problems, we would often have to go beyond investigating the basics like credit reports, to looking into phone logs, medical records, and other detailed reports that would help us decide whether a character problem would wash out or whether it was an indelible stain that the White House counsel needed to be aware of in order to protect the president and the presidency. Up to 100 agents could be assigned to a case, and interviews could be conducted worldwide. An FBI investigation is no small undertaking. An FBI background investigation is no small undertaking. That's because it's an important one. The standards to which the White House employees were held were certainly not unreasonable. The standards were well thought out and legal. There were 4 key elements to a background investigation: character, associates, reputation, and loyalty. It was labeled CARL for short, Carl. Character. Good traits include honesty, integrity, work ethic, aptitude, demeanor, and bearing. A bad character would be determined by finding that someone is dishonest, lacks integrity, is lazy, has been found guilty of criminal conduct, and so forth. Associates. An individual is assessed by the company he keeps. If a person is a doctor by day, he shouldn't be hanging out with drug traffickers by night. If a person is an FBI agent by day, he shouldn't be socializing with criminals at night. If a man is married, he shouldn't spend the same time with a single woman. Okay? So everything my ex told them was just another lie. Reputation. Most people make an enemy or two in the course of their lives. But if the overall impression of those who know a candidate is negative, additional investigation is needed to determine why. Loyalty. When I first became an FBI agent, this meant loyalty to the United States, to the flag, and to the Constitution of the United States. Today, staffers often misinterpret it as loyalty to the president. Now, let's talk about dangerousness. The Secret Service is haunted by memories of the Kennedy administration and other assassination attempts, and they take every precaution, not just with the outside world, but also with the White House staff, to protect the president. The only way to predict human behavior, including possibly dangerous behavior is to know past behavior, including possible dangerous behavior is to know past behavior. Background investigations have always been the best available tool. Although FBI background investigations may be imperfect, they're the best means we have. What is Hunter's excuse, or many others surrounding Biden? Another area that he's discussing here is called suitability. Suitability includes verifying U.S. citizenship, education, skills, experience, and other factors that help predict whether a particular individual has the right stuff to be a government employee. Paid out of your hard-earned taxpayer dollars. Finding evidence of an applicant's suitability was part of our job. The end result of all our work was the protection of the reputation and credibility of the president. With the arrival of a new administration, my assignment was to discover and document character flaws and present them to the new staff. If any, we have to report them to the president, and actually to the president's counsel through the SPIN unit, the Special Integrity Unit. Though I knew my days working in the Bush administration that the president often already knew the findings of the SPIN reports. In the past, I had been aware of the careful way new people were selected. Nobody wanted to recommend the wrong people, because if they crashed and burned, it would reflect badly not only on them, but on the president himself. But we were already off to a bad start. There were about 70 days before the election and the inauguration, sufficient time to complete a large number of investigations and go through a large number of SPIN cases. But for the same reason, there weren't many cases coming in. For some reason. The only big influx of cases had been at Christmas, when numerous cabinet level and other appointments were being dumped into the system after their appointments by the incoming president. The reverse of normal procedure. Some of these cases included cabinet choices such as Zoe Baird, Les Aspin, Warren Christopher, Bruce Babbitt, Alice Rivlin, Mike Espy, and Robert Woolsey. They required the completion of 100 or more items of investigation, including anywhere from 35 to 50 complex personal interviews, 30 to 45 complex interviews. How about that? Complex personal interviews of each of them, more than 600 total. We were ordered to complete these investigations and type our reports letter perfect in an average of only 4 calendar days. A fairly routine process became a crisis. Our first problem was these people needed to be located so they could be interviewed. But it was Christmas time, and having received their invitation to the ball, many of the new big players were off to their ski chalet or to the islands. And the FBI investigation, oh yeah, I forgot. The persons who knew them well, character witnesses, had to be found and interviewed. But it was Christmas. Where were these people during the holidays? All the chaos was so unnecessary, and it eventually caused the administration so much trouble that there seemed to be only 3 people and 3 possible explanations, all very disturbing. Key people in the administration had simply decided that the security procedures were not important. Key people in the administration had simply decided that security procedures were not important and were taking a so what attitude toward possible scandal, embarrassment, or worse. Key people in the administration were so actively hostile to the background investigation process that they wanted to guarantee that we wouldn't have enough time to perform adequate checks and follow up on allegations. This might be because some people in the administration had serious matters to hide. Hunter Biden. Or it might simply be because people in the administration were instinctively hostile to authority, and to authority figures of all kinds, and to all those regular procedures, customs, and standards by which high-level organizations, whether in the White House or in the corporate boardroom, these people would avoid even the appearance of inappropriate scandalous activity or just loose practices like the Clintons. And there he talks again about the Clintons. And he talks about other warning signs that were more ominous. The Clintons, for instance, had been late for their own inauguration, a case of jitters or understandable last-minute fussing. Okay? That's what happened. Okay? Sweet Polly says, sounds immoral. You're right. Richard Smith says, my American flag I rescued from the second-hand store. It was folded. That's good. Now, someone said there was no sound. Karen Gelfler said there was no sound. I hope there is. Folks, what I just told you is happening again in our own White House. Now, I don't know any staffers in the White House. I don't know any FBI agents that are assigned to the White House to do background investigations. But I can hold up Gary Aldrich as knowing that these FBI agents sometimes are told to go pack sand. Just like what happened in the White House. And if you get this book and read it, you're going to find out the same thing. Gary Aldrich and his partner were told to pack sand. And Bill Clinton told the FBI agents to just let people in. That is the truth. That's the truth, guys. Does anybody have any questions? Okay? I thought that this probably would stir up a hornet's nest. Okay? I'm just telling you what's going on so you can be aware of it. I'm certainly aware of it. I'm totally aware of it. It's incredible. It's incredible. The things that are happening in our own White House today are sick, and that's not in a good way. And I don't think it's just Hunter Biden. I think it's everybody. Joe Biden is one too old. That's number one. Number two, he's senile. Number three, he's gotten to the point he doesn't even remember past events in his own life. And he digs events up that didn't even happen. Okay? So that tells you another story. Something's got to change. Like I said, Congressman Comer not Comey. Comey was a former FBI agent that was tossed out of the FBI by the FBI. And so was his girlfriend. Comey had been married and cheated on his spouse with his girlfriend, who was secretary in the FBI office. So he was tossed out for immoral character in the FBI. And yet Comey thought that nothing would ever happen to him. Comey violated his oath of office, violated his oath to protect and serve. Former President Trump put Comey in charge of the FBI, and Comey left the FBI and failed in his career. Now, Mr. Comey is coming back and suing President Trump for wrongful termination. Wrongful termination. President Trump didn't fire him, although President Trump said he wished he had. The FBI fired Comey for immoral character and lying and cover-ups. He was in the same bed with Hillary. Maybe not literally, but figuratively. That's what happens when you lie and you steal and you can't tell the truth about anything. It's incredible what happens. Now, what are we going to do about it? We need, like I said, and I said this several times a couple days ago, we need to contact our people in Washington, our congressmen and senators. Right now they're on vacation in your states, in your cities where they live. Now's a good time to even visit them personally. You can still contact the Washington switchboard. The Capitol number to the Capitol switchboard is 202-224-3121. The Capitol switchboard is 202-224-3121. When you call them, tell the operator that you want to talk to your congressman. If you know the congressman's name, say his name and tell him what state you're from. The same thing with your senator. When you call the switchboard, ask them to speak with your senator by name. Now, many times you won't get to speak with the congressman or the senator. You'll be talking with one of their aides. And it's okay to talk to them. But you need to tell them your displeasure with what's going on in Washington. And you want them to take action and stop what's going on. And if they can't do their jobs, then they won't be having a job after the next election. That you and I will always do our best to put someone else in their place if they can't do the job that we elected them to do. And you need to be firm about it. Don't threaten them, but tell them that after the next election, if they don't do what we want them to do, that they won't have a job. That is okay. Folks, I want to tell you that you are incredible. You can do this. You can stand up for your country. You can stand up for what's right, what's good and right for our country. We need to bring back our country. Bring back the ideals that our country stands for. We need to make a complete turnaround for our country. Our country was founded on Christian ideals, and I don't know anyone that doesn't want those back. So folks, let's do our job. Let's make sure that we can bring our country back. Because right now, we're in a bad way. We are in a very bad way. Now, I promised you that we would end this program on the same level that we did on July 4th. Folks, I have a copy of that same video that I showed you on July 4th. I ask you to watch this video. We spent a lot of time and effort putting together this video for you. May God bless us. May God lift us up to be the kind of men and women that we need to be. It's you and I against the world. It's you and I and those that we love and care for to stand up and be known who we are. You and I are residents of the United States of America. Those of you that live outside the U.S., you are representatives of your own countries. Stand up for them. Stand up what's right. Stand for what's right. It doesn't matter whether you're in Romania, whether you're in England, whether you are in Spain. It doesn't matter whether you are in Argentina, Australia, Japan, Indonesia, or Canada. Stand up for your rights. They can't take us all down. This can be our revolution to take back that which we believe. May God bless us to that end. Brothers and sisters, I love you. Please know that. I would do anything for you. May God bless us to do exactly that. I hope you have a great night and a better tomorrow. If anything happens tonight, we'll be back on the air to talk about it as soon as the information becomes available. Take care, folks. We will see you Sunday with Come Follow Me, the Savior Said, which is a Sunday school program. We're talking about the book of Acts. The book of Acts. Please be prepared to participate. We appreciate it. God bless you guys. We love you. Have a good night. We will see you around the corner. God bless. Do know that we love you. As Walter Cronkite would say, and that's the way it is. For Emergency Management Associates, this is Ron Tyler, not CBS News. Have a good night, guys. Love you much. If anything else happens, we'll be back here on the air to bring it to you live.